Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So tonight we're going to do another episode of First Time Gun Buyer. Now, for those of you out there who are going out there to make your first purchase, I'm going to tell you that when you get to that gun store, it is going to be overwhelming because there are so many choices. Now, we've done, I believe, 4 or 5 episodes prior to this. I can't even remember, to be honest with you. And I've tried to cover a lot of the basic details in regards to firearms that you're going to come into contact when you get to that gun store. Tonight is going to be in the same breath of that. Now, in regards to tonight, the two topics, or the one topic that we're actually going to be talking about, is basically plastic versus metal. Now, obviously, the striker-fired handgun market is booming. I really can't think of too many manufacturers out there that are not making these little handguns right here. They're extremely durable, they're fun to shoot, and for the most part, they're extremely accurate. But at the same time, you always have the classic market, the market where you have a metal framed or a handgun with a steel slide. So you get the classic feel of that handgun. And there are some people out there that still think these are the handguns to choose. And there's nothing wrong with that because there are some fantastic metal handguns out there as well. And again, they're extremely ergonomic, they're comfortable to shoot, and more importantly, they're accurate. So ultimately, when you get into that gun store, what you have to really decide is which one's going to work for you. So we're going to go to the table. We're going to show both of these guns here to those of you who watch the video. And I'm going to go through some basic positives and negatives of both. And at the end of the day, it boils down to your personal preference and your choice. For those of you watching the video, please, by all means, leave comments down below to let the new gun buyer have some of your knowledge, so to speak, so that you can contribute to this discussion and really give good, solid information to people who are curious, who may want to be going out there and purchasing pretty soon. So let's go to the table, stay tuned, and again, let's see what you guys have to say at the end. Hey guys, welcome back to the table. So you see the two guns that I chose for tonight, and you see the CZ PCR and the Walther PPQ. Now, I'm going to tell you, for me personally, the biggest advantage that this polymer framed gun has over the metal frame gun is going to be weight. Now, for those of you who carry, you know exactly what I mean, especially if you're carrying for a long period of time, whether it's going for an outdoor hike or if it's just going to the mall, whatever it might be. What you're going to realize is that the heavier the gun, the more likely you're going to become very uncomfortable very quickly. Again, it also is based upon the stature of the frame. Bigger people tend to not necessarily worry about the weight of the handgun. But for those of us who maybe are kind of, I guess average to maybe slightly bigger than average, you may have no issue carrying a metal frame gun, but you definitely will prefer that polymer handgun. So I think overall the advantage of weight obviously goes for the plastic. But then you have to ask yourself, is that really true? And the reason why I say that is because this PPQ weighs in about 24.5 ounces. So you're looking at about, let's say 25, we'll round up. So it's a 25-ounce handgun. And interestingly enough, this right here weighs in at 27.5 ounces. So this is about 28 ounces. So you're looking at a 3-ounce difference. So what you really have to ask yourself is, does those 3 ounces really make such a significant difference? But then you also have to think about what is the actual materials built into the handgun. Because you have to realize the CZ PCR is made out of an alloyed frame with a steel slide. So that alloy will actually reduce the overall weight of the handgun, even though you still have the steel slide here, as you have here. Now, I can tell you, in all honesty, that when you look at the steel-framed handguns, for example, an average 1911 comes in around 32 ounces. So you're looking at roughly 2 pounds of handgun. And again, for those 1911 lovers out there, they love carrying those handguns. They don't care how big, how heavy, or whatever. They just love the handgun. Again, you can also compare, let's say, to one of the heavier polymer framed handguns like a P320. Those come in roughly around 26 ounces or so. So that's one of the heavier handguns that's made out of polymer, but at the same time is still light enough to carry effectively. But remember, 26 ounces for a P320, 27.5 ounces or 27.5 ounces really on this one is not that significant of a difference. Again, your M&Ps run about 24 and change. The one gun that I had that was probably the heaviest gun I ever owned was the Arex Rex 01, and that came in roughly almost 30 ounces. So even that's a pretty hefty handgun. That was a gun that I did carry for a short time, but for me it just didn't work just because of the overall weight of the handgun. Now again, keep in mind, one of the other added benefits to these polymer-fired handguns is the majority of them are going to be striker fires. And, you guys can go back to look at that video that I made, striker versus hammer. And, there are some inherent advantages to that. The resetting of the trigger, the consistency of the trigger pull, you name it. So you definitely have some advantages built into this kind of system here. Now, of course, with the metal framed handguns, one of the biggest positives, in my opinion, is just going to be the overall durability. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with the durability of polymer fired handguns. Have there been some guns in the past that have been kind of questionable about their polymer? Absolutely. The original P07 Duty, if any of you owned that, because I had that, the polymer on that was absolute crap. I had that little bubble on the side there where the polymer is actually separating from the steel parts inside. Although CZ said there was nothing wrong with it, it wouldn't interfere with the handgun and its operation. That was a little bit disheartening. And as a result, CZ wound up coming out with the P07, which upped the actual technology and the rigidity of the frame in the new polymer they're using. So you find that in the P07, the P09, and of course the Phantom as well. So from that aspect, while polymer at times has been a little iffy, if you guys have ever done the little Glock squeeze, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have to necessarily say that about a metal framed handgun. I mean, it's made out of metal. The most worry you're going to have with these handguns is rusting. But if you keep it oiled and you keep it in a really controlled environment in regards to temperature and humidity, you'll have no problem with this gun whatsoever. This will last longer than you. Personally for me, have I had any problems with the polymer on any of my handguns? Aside from the P07 Duty that I used to own and cracking the frame on this one that had to be replaced, I haven't really had any major issues with the frame. Maybe some basic things, but nothing to really concern myself too much about. Now, one of the other things that I think is probably a little more advantageous to a metal framed handgun as opposed to a polymer framed handgun is if you decide to go with a full-size metal handgun, what you're going to find is the overall weight is an actual benefit. Again, for those of you who shoot and are consistently going to the range and just getting better and better every day, which would be great, what you're going to find is that the heavier that handgun, the easier and flatter it's going to shoot. And the reason being is because you're going to feel less of that recoil in the muzzle because it's more front heavy or the gun overall is heavy. So as a result, instead of feeling that lift, you're going to be able to get that muzzle down back on target very quickly, which again is an extreme benefit to these handguns. Now, of course, again, a benefit to a polymer handgun is its overall accuracy. And again, that boils down to the trigger system. But again, remember that polymer, while it is lightweight and it is not as, let's say, heavy in regards to a metal framed handgun, that polymer still does a good enough job to absorb a lot of the recoil on the modern striker fired polymer pistols and even the hammer fired pistols. So what you have to realize is that while this one has a little bit more weight to it, is it an absolute definite that there's more advantage to this? Probably not. But again, it's based on opinion. Now let's go into some of the negatives. Negative wise, I think in regards to just overall for polymer handguns is, do these guns really have that durability factor in them? There are definitely some videos out there on YouTube where you have seen frames crack, you have seen frames blow out for whatever reason. And I think for a lot of people that can bring some worry to the gun owner. Now, me personally, I've never had those issues. I had a cracked, Picatinny rail up here on the PPQ that was replaced. But other than that, I've never had any other issues. Now, even with the frame issue I had on my original P07 Duty, again, CZ came out and said there was nothing wrong with that was just a part of the manufacturing process and it would not affect the function of the handgun. There was still a little bit of uneasiness every time I shot that handgun. I'm not going to lie and say that there wasn't. Now, in regards to the metal frame guns, what are the big disadvantages? Again, it boils down to weight, guys. If you go with a CZ PCR, it's not so bad. Like I said, 27.5 ounces is definitely doable. If you've ever handled one of these handguns, it feels extremely light in the hand. And as a matter of fact, just so you know, and I'll take both magazines out, and by the way, both guns have been cleared before the shooting of the video. But what you're going to realize is that if you put both of these handguns in your hand at the same time, simultaneously, what you're going to find is you don't really feel that significant difference in weight because there really isn't one. And a lot of times the ergonomics of the handgun can play a role in that. I think overall, if you were going to choose a handgun, whether it's a metal framed or a polymer framed, you have so many great choices out there and you're really not going to make a big mistake. Again, I would really look at something that is a moderately weighed or a moderately weighted metal gun. I wouldn't want to get anything that's too heavy. Because I think personally you're going to be a little bit more uncomfortable carrying that handgun. However, with the polymer framed handgun, Again, you're going to get the lightness, you're going to get the overall quality and that consistent trigger with the striker fired system, which is in the majority of these. So I think overall there are some great benefits and qualities to this and this. Now, if I had to choose one of them, which one would I go for? I can't tell you that because I like them both so much that for me, it would be very, very, very difficult to do that. For you and the first-time gun buyer, this is really going to be for you to decide which one works best for you. Now, I'm sure there's things I missed in this video. If you guys have any comments down below, please feel free to leave them. Let those people out there know that whether they're male or female, big or small, young or old, try to let them know what has worked for you and why. I think that would be a big benefit to those people out there who are just entering the gun community and who are as excited as we were when we first went shopping for our first handgun. So I hope you liked the video. Give a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe because I'm trying to get to 5,000. We're almost there. So I hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe. And as always, freedom is never free.